Isn't this nice? Smell of these wings is incredible. Well, thanks for hopping on for a minute. Poison. All right. So, let's see. What do we want to do first? I feel like if I sauce too many of these, I'm gonna lose track. So I have to think how I'm gonna do this here. Think. Let's see. All right. Hey, you can hear that. Get a bit of the classic. Well, I gotta sauce them first. Then I'll take your suggestion and eat eat one doused in the classic. Where's my camera? There. Delicious. All right, so let's do this. I'll mark them with the sauce. Some wuju. Ooh, it's nice and thick. The classic, as I remember, is I want to say 1800. It's not super spicy. It's it's really nice on like eggs. It's like a go-to for me. Sampling these all ahead of time on my fingers. All right, this one I'm opening. This is from St. Augustine, the Caribbean. I actually don't know how to say that pepper. Thank you, thank you. I was like, hey, I have an extra webcam. I could do something fun with this. This one I'm really looking forward to. I tried a sample in the store when I bought it yesterday, and my goodness, it's so delicious. Let's make sure we get both sides here to prove to Jeremy I'm not skimping on the sauce. Of course, these are the ones I would not skimp on to begin with, but you know, shh. I mean, I had things pretty much set up just in time. I finished grilling, and then it's like, feels like 98 degrees out according to my weather app. So I had to hop in the shower afterwards and got everything set up. And I was like, hey, I got a little bit of time. May as well sauce it live. Um, yeah, so this is Nando's piri piri sauce, which apparently is super popular in England. But it's a South African pepper. And I have a South African friend who apparently went to school with the guy who made this, so that was kind of cool. Yes, I will be sweating very soon. I feel like I already almost am, and I think that might just be the ambient temperature of the room. Well, that's what I got the wing. Alright, so, let me do this. I realized I don't have these displayed. And I'm gonna need to change some of these a little bit, because I didn't... This is one part I didn't test. How this is gonna work exactly. So let me make these a little live. See if I can scroll this up some so that... There we go. That way everybody can be a part of the conversation, no matter where you're watching. Because I didn't think ahead about how fragmented this is. I'll try not to die. I thank you for the well wishes. Yeah, so Vaughn, that's why I got him on camera, so you can see him. Before I eat, I will definitely hold him up to the camera so you can get a nice close-up look at that. Let's see, we got Hank's next. Ooh, you hear that? That was a nice little... And of course, all these are going to mix on the plate, so some of these are going to be extra spicy. This is like a habanero buffalo sauce. Oh, yeah, that's nice and sweet, and man, does that get you in the throat. And you can see my in case of emergency milk, which I'm going to do everything possible not to have. Like, so I've had the last dab before, and you know, milk doesn't really help. I mean, maybe there's some like millimeter of pain that it removes, but I think it's it scientifically sure, but it definitely feels more psychological than anything. Oh yeah, you get some you're welcome for that. All right, so let's go here. Ooh. Being very generous here, I guess. Yep. That's some good old habanero. I haven't even started yet and I just sniffled. This doesn't bode well. Alright, what's up? We got this one, which I haven't tried yet. From Hellfire, the Devil's Blend Roasted Reaper. Which, honestly, I think of all these, probably has, I think, my favorite art on it. Looks pretty cool. Oh, man. How cool would it have been if there was, like, a grinner or a liquor sauce or something like that? Guess we need to get on that. All right. So the end is a little clogged and I kind of don't want to stick my finger in there, but let's see. Oh, that's disgusting. I'm gonna have to put my finger in it. Ew. It just squirted everywhere. Oh man, it got on my monitor. Oh shit. Completely professional here. All right. So we're saucing this sucker. I honestly thought this would go a little quicker, but some things are a little more difficult than I anticipated. Oh shit. All right, so long as my hand's a little more steady when we get to the last dab, I guess I'll be able to survive. All right, Los Calientes next. For some reason, maybe it's just me, but when I had this, when I first opened this bottle, I had just a spoonful of it, and I thought it was like the tastiest thing in the world. Didn't really feel a lot of heat from it. But then I had it on a wing, and for some reason it just felt so much hotter. I don't know, maybe there's some scientific reason why that's the case, or maybe that's just me. Now we're getting a little more serious. Zombie Apocalypse, 500,000 Scoville heat units. It does have, this also has pretty awesome artwork. As a person who tends more towards graphic design than proper art, based on my own skill level or lack thereof in some cases, that's spicy. I tend towards the ones that feel more cohesive and fancy, which is why I liked the Hellfire Blend art more, but oh jeez. Alright. But I definitely recognize that is some nice, fun art. Now the super serious one. The last dab. This one I kind of don't want to lick off my fingers. I've made that mistake before. I think I'm just gonna, save that for the pain on the show. Alright. Another thing I didn't think through is my mic placement and everything being all in the way. Oh. All right, so after sampling all that, do I really need to start off with a sampler? All right, how about this? I'll start off with a sampler once I hit play. I want to get that going. As a forewarning, that I just got a bit in the back of my throat from the zombie apocalypse. As I get going, I will... there's an ad at the beginning, because I didn't clip that out, because I needed to test to make sure everything was okay, and I didn't want to spoil any of it ahead of time, not even the intro. So, bear with me through the ad in the beginning, and I will eat a classic hot wing while the ad goes. Alright, let's get this. And let me know if the volume sounds good between it and my voice. If I can find the play button here.
To make car care make sense. That's
hey,
why we
go.
offer personalized
Gonna
service
make car care make
swap
sense.
Car talk for straight talk, so you know what your car is telling you and what to do about it. Putting you in the driver's seat of car care, that's a job for Jiffy. To find a Pennzoil pouring service center,
you can tell this is my favorite one.
Is it safe to get
Running
back
low
on the
there.
road? How is travel becoming more seamless?
My
Can
everyday
business travel go back
one,
to
I should
business
say,
as
more than
usual?
my favorite.
These are the complex questions we'll dive into on Tarmac Warriors, a 3-part podcast from SAP Concur Solutions. I'm Heather Greenwood Davis.
Good?
Join us for a chat with 3 extraordinary business travelers, a big wave surfer, a tropical fruit expert, and a climate scientist, and see what we can learn about where business travel is
Should
going.
do that over this one,
Subscribe
actually.
to Tarmac Warriors wherever you listen to podcasts.
Rusty Quill presents.
This podcast contains content which may be too intense for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, a bit late for
You're
that.
listening to
All right.
The Storage Papers.
Intro really does get in your head.
Episode 17. This week, I wanted to share something I came across that I found interesting, if not a bit concerning. Something that just seemed a bit off, less organized than some of the other documents. Most of the pages are faded and somewhat damaged photocopies of notebook paper, bent around the corners and segregated by lines.
You know, instinctively, I want to reach for the
They were
milk
likely once folded.
just to wash it down.
Attached is a newspaper clipping detailing a missing girl. There's also an unfinished letter from whom I believe to be Ron, addressing a Mr. Brian Pierce. But I'll talk more about that later. I'm sharing this with you because, despite the lack of any evidence of follow-up or notes, or really anything credible or official, I feel that both the unfinished letter and the nature of these documents, the coffee stains on the pages and overall messy way that they're handled, stood out to me.
Really
Following
like
is what I
Cody's
believe to be a
descriptions.
set of journal entries recovered from the bedroom of one Alice Pierce, a 16-year-old high school student from Signal Hill, reported missing on Saturday, June 16th, 2007.
I've only had the one. It was just a warm-up, the
Journal
classic.
entries dated June
No biggie.
13th, 2007.
Honestly, when I was cooking them, I really
Okay,
wanted
so I
more.
promise
They
I'm not a
smelled so
weirdo.
good.
No matter what my idiot brother thinks, no matter what my dad thinks, I am not a weirdo. I'm not crazy. I'm not on drugs. I'm not having nightmares.
In case it isn't clear, that's not me typing
Time
as
now
the
is
storage papers. That would be
11:43
Jeremy.
But it'll be
goading
later
me.
by the time I finish writing this. It comes at 1.
I actually was thinking about like a 5-minute rule. If there's nothing in 5 minutes. Because this is about 30 minutes long. Yes.
At least that's the time when the hands on the clock stop moving. When everything sort of stops. I remember the first night he came. I woke up soaked in sweat, my hair
Which
stuck
we're
to
almost to
my
the
face,
5-minute mark.
draping across my frozen lips and pulling into my mouth as I took shallow, stunted breaths. I looked around my room, my eyes rolling in their sockets. The pitch black,
This song
flickering
is
contrast
Cody's,
to
if
the
I remember right.
brown amber glow
Sounds like his.
of the nightlight I had switched on before bed.
Yep.
I tried to move my arms, my legs. My body wouldn't respond. I let out a dry whimper. Well, more of a barely audible squeak. As I
I'll leave
tried
it
to
up
cry
because
out
you
my
never
throat.
know.
That's when I first heard it. I don't know if I can even describe it. Have you ever opened up canned dog food and upturned it into a bowl? It sort of slides out slowly. This deep,
Come on, make it
sloppy
before
red
5 minutes.
schlup. That's what it sounded like.
Right on the 5-minute
My
mark.
eyes darted around before I saw it in the window. Dull, gray, pointed
Oh.
eyes, round and wide open, but very much
There it
human.
is. The wing.
I couldn't see anything else. but I could see its lips, curled into a wide smile as its tongue slid across the glass.
Oh, come on.
I lay there like I had woken up from surgery, paralyzed.
Not fair.
As I witnessed something I was never supposed to see. His tongue lapped at the window, and hunger danced in his eyes. The longer I stared into his pupils, the smaller I felt. Waves of gray and black crashed together and swirled behind his eyelids until I was lost in a chasm of inky black tar. It's been that way every night since. I have more, a lot more, actually. But he'll be here soon, and I don't have time. I'll write more tomorrow. If you're reading this, I just want you to know that I would never hurt myself. I would never run away from home. Whatever happens, I'd love you, Dad. Please don't be sad. I know you would help me if you knew how real this all was. The next journal entry is harder to read. There's a gray spider web of creases where the paper was crumpled before it was copied, though I was still able to make out all the words. June 14th, 2007.
All right,
I still
I'm up
have
to
the
date.
little plastic
And the
globe
first
above
noise
stars
hit,
on my ceiling.
I kid you not, at 4 minutes,
You can see
59
the little blobs
seconds.
of sticky
Saving
glue
grace.
Mom used to
Great
put
timing, Jeremy.
but they don't glow anymore. Whatever magic there was in them is all dried up now. They're just plastic shapes. Sometimes I forget they're even there. I wanted to continue where I left off last night, but I don't think it really matters. It's always the same thing, the same story, night after night. I cry and
I don't
plead to
know
my
all of
father,
the
and I know he sees the pain in my
Scovilles.
eyes
Some of these
because
I just
see it
went
in
based
his.
off of my experience with them.
But he
Yeah, I
just
just
doesn't
had,
believe
I
me.
had to, hey, what do you mean? Look at the
Nobody
ween cam. Come
believes
on.
me.
There's 2 missing.
The school psychiatrist,
In addition to the one that I
friends
sauced
and
up
message
separately.
boards and chat rooms.
Trying to get me
Someone
to
on
eat
a
more.
paranormal forum asked me if it was a cry for help. I told them it was. Last night was different for many reasons. I couldn't fall asleep, and I don't think I wanted to.
All right. You guys are
I
just
lay
being mean
awake
now.
looking for constellations in gray plastic empty stars and listening to muffled pop rock whisper through the small radio on my desk, my arm reaching back and gripping the wooden bedpost. The last click as the clock hand snapped to attention drew me out of my daze, like a snap as the hour hand turned to 1 o'clock.
Fair enough, I guess. Was that one?
The nightlight dimmed away, and the music
I was sniffling and I
stopped
might have missed
abruptly.
it.
I could hear his tongue slapping.
Why am I
against the
asking you
glass
guys? You
as I
guys are going to
turned
say
my
yeah,
head
whether
to
it
look.
was or not. That definitely was one.
I was so focused
Yeah.
on him, his smile, gray eyes, the fat trail of saliva. I remember finding it odd that his breath never left a fog on the glass. At this point, I had barely realized I was able to move. What happened next was all instinctive. I slowly squirmed backwards across the sheets, shuffling my body and then dangling my legs off the bed until my feet found purchase on the wooden floor. I never lost sight of the features in the window. Before I knew it, my back was against the door of my bedroom, and I was grasping at the knob. It wouldn't rotate. His hands slapped against the window, and joy danced in his eyes at my discovery. Or so I thought. Just as before, I couldn't speak. Yelling out for help felt like someone swallowing the air out of my lungs. I beat my hands against the door, but it didn't make a sound. Absolute silence but for my heartbeat and the man, or creature, at my window. I don't know how long I stood there, tears rolling down my chin as I screamed in silent whimpers and beat soundlessly against the bedroom door.
We got like 10 seconds until we're at the
wanted
10-minute mark.
nothing more than it to fall open and I fall into my father's arms. The part of me that held out hope for that died a little more with every inaudible wail. After some time, my anger turned into frustration.
I don't know if I have enough wings.
Not the angry boiling over, lashing out type of frustration, but solemn, desperate kind of frustration. The kind that makes you yank your hair out. The kind that makes you feel small.
Oh, I'm feeling fine. I can't help my nose gets a little
I
runny,
squinted
but
outside the window.
this is nothing.
I could tell, hidden in the shadows, he was smiling wider than he had before.
This plate
His
over
arms
here,
pressed
this
firmly
is the
into
one that I'm
glass,
worried about.
And the tip of his tongue twirling like a ribbon across the length of the window. I looked into his eyes and felt so small,
Some
so powerless.
peri-peri sauce.
The best way I can describe it is that I felt
see
disappointed in myself.
Very well
The
sauced.
desperation was slowly leaving my body and being replaced with an overwhelming feeling of acceptance and dread. Every crashing wave of gray and black in his eyes drew me closer, and before I knew it, I had approached the window, and I was pressing my thumb and forefinger against the lock. Tears filled my vision, muddying his swirling black eyes, and I sort of snapped out of it. Whatever hold he had on me was gone for that moment. I was
I don't
now
know if
face
I
to
believe
face
you or
with the
not.
thing outside of my window, and I knew more than ever that I had to shut him out. I had to block out his hypnotic gaze. I reached for the curtains and yanked at them, but they didn't move. Even with all of my weight, they stayed perfectly in place. I tugged at blankets, pillows, and chairs,
But I'm nothing if
anything to
not
hide
a
myself
man of
from
the
him.
people.
But everything stayed perfectly in place. Too heavy.
Here's
to
Hank's sauce.
I
You can
think
see it's nice
always
and
been this
shiny,
way
a good
with
sheen
films.
to it.
Stuck. I just hadn't noticed because I was stuck too. Before I continue on to the next journal entry, I just want to put you in my shoes for a minute. What's sitting across from me is a pile of photocopied pages of notebook paper. Each page is more weathered than the last, both before and after being copied. It looks like more attention was put towards these next pages than the last. I hope I'm not betraying Ron when I say this, but I think that he may have been a little more bothered by this case than some of the others. If you haven't paid much attention to Ron's attitude up until this point, he's rather stoic. He's not exactly unshakable, but he tends to keep his emotions in check. Something tells me there might be a little more to this story than what I'm looking at right now. I can't be certain, but I have a feeling this might be bigger than what it seems. There's a case to be made that the pages that look to have spent the most time sitting on a desk being pondered over are also the ones that seem to have seen the most
And here's
damage
my revenge.
before being copied. As we crawl further towards the final entry, the handwriting gets darker, shakier. I'm ashamed to say I find it immensely interesting to see Alice's state of mind
I'll
reflected
survive.
in the slowly degrading handwriting. And I can't help but wonder if the damage on these copied pages is any evidence that Ron might have felt the same. This is the next entry.
Make this easier for myself.
June 15th, 2007.
Where was I
Last
starting?
night I sat with my father
Avenue.
as he watched TV. Some sort of black and white Western movie. The edges of the screen giving off a soft white glow. The shadows on the wall are different when you watch something in black and white.
I actually do have the
The
TARDIS
bright
Yahtzee
things
game.
aren't as bright, and the dark things are more.
That's a cookie jar, though.
The sound is softer.
And once I replace the
voices are
batteries,
more
we'll make a
gentle,
sound
and the
effect whenever I
music has
open it.
rounded edges.
So I will know
It
who
can
stole
pull
the
you
cookie
into
from the
your own
cookie
thoughts
jar.
if you let it. I sat with a knot in my chest and a pendulum in my stomach.
Oh, trust me, as these
Closed my
get
eyes
hotter,
and pretended to
I'm
drift off.
not going to be as nice.
I all but stopped begging.
I will be
My father doesn't
eating as
believe me,
close to the
And during
microphone
the day,
as I
I can
can.
only do my best
feel
to
comfortable.
pretend that my nightmares have passed. I couldn't do it to him. I couldn't open my eyes. And
You know,
plead
I
with him.
didn't think about that,
As he
but I
picked
guess
up my
that is a
massive
nice
body
little
from the sofa
affirming
and carried me
boost.
to my room,
This is my
placing me gently in my bed.
blood donor shirt.
I know I'm too heavy for him to lug me around like this. I'm still the little girl I was more than half a decade ago. I don't have the heart to remind him that when Mom died, that little girl died too.
So sad.
When he told me goodnight and switched the light off,
My
held
lips
on to
feel
the lie
amazing.
and stayed silent and still. Time passed as I lay there, curled into a ball in the place my father had left me. The clock struck 1, and I stayed as I was. I may as well have been frozen like everything else Shirley was. I was already feeling hopeless. Infinitesimally small. But as I opened my eyes and looked into the swirling black eyes staring at me through the window, I felt somehow even
It
smaller.
is. I donated
I felt as though I was
blood,
falling through an endless
and they
black
gave me a
hole.
t-shirt.
I closed my eyes, squeezing them shut and letting the feelings of dread subside. I think that when I look at his eyes, something happens to me.
Curse you,
It's like all
Jeremy.
the pain and sadness and regret that I carry somewhere deep inside myself leaches out.
Yes, the pain and sadness
His
deep
gaze loops
inside.
around my insides like fishing line and pulls until everything inside of me is leaking the same thick black tar. I wish I could say his hold over me
All right,
ends
this
after
is
1 o'clock.
From the makers
But
of
as
Da
time
Bomb.
passes, I feel more and more of it during the day. The same feeling of uselessness and dread. There's this idea that won't leave my head, wrapped around my brainstem like tree roots. I am weak, but he is strong, or at least stronger than me. Without him, I am nothing, and with him, I have purpose. The voice in my head whispers harshly to open the window. The voice tells me everything's okay. Everything is as it should be. The pain will pass.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying. Pain will pass.
I know I'm not supposed to listen. It's like that nagging part of your brain that keeps telling you to do something you know is wrong. That part of your brain that drives you to look for cash in a lost wallet. To skip to the last page and see how the story ends. When I picture him in my mind, I see him for what he truly is. The monster from under the bed that eats little girls. When I look into his eyes, when I feel him watching me, it's not the same. My sole purpose is to give myself to him. I belong to him, as do we all. Every day I feel weaker
I have
than the last.
4
And if I
pre-sauce
don't do
wings,
something,
and then I don't know what to do
I
if
will
I need
lose
more.
those fleeting moments of self-preservation. If I continue down
I have
this
some
path
unsauced
without
ones.
letting that
You
part
guys
of
want to
myself
watch me eat some
redeem,
unsauced wings?
I will be
That'd
choosing
be
to
exciting,
accept
right?
defeat. I have one last idea, and I think tonight might be my last chance to make it work. If I wait, if I subject myself to this for even just a day longer, the part of me that doesn't want all this will have decayed into nothing.
You're funny. Both you guys. All of you guys.
The next set of
Hilarious.
pages were a lot harder to transcribe. Aside from the crumpling, which was more of a distraction than an obstacle, the pen marks seem much more heavy-handed, and the pages are marred
It's
with
always the
scratching
exhale that does it.
sentences and smeared ink.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm adding something to the story that just isn't there. Looking too far into it, I guess. But it looks more like she was crying when she wrote it. I think that might explain the stark shift in tone. The pages are dotted down with spots where the letters and lines of the paper blur. And it looks like she went over these parts again to make them legible.
I can't
Although I
imagine
can't
how
say
that
it
would
made the
feel.
words much easier to read. Thankfully, with some effort and a few educated guesses, I was able to continue transcribing
quote?
the pages into a much easier to read Word document, which is what I'm currently reading from. The next entry is dated June 16th, 2007, 2 days before Alice was reported missing by her father.
Alright, no one's talking over there, so I'm gonna make this a little bigger.
It's like the pitter-patter of rain on a tent. His fingernail tapping against the glass. You don't really tune it out. You focus on it. Live in it as it envelops you. Nothing else exists. Nothing matters except right now. I think I know why the clock stops. Why everything gets stuck. I guess I'm stupid for not figuring it out sooner.
Oh, this was a horrible
Nothing was
mistake.
really
Why did I
stuck
let
for
Jeremy
me.
talk me into this?
I'm still just as stuck as I was the very first night that he came, just in a different way. His tongue squirmed against the glass, dancing and squealing. and when he dragged his fingernail across it,
That was nice and
sang
long.
to me. I think I made him angry when I blocked him out. I thought about moving the dresser I'd used to block the window.
This is
I
the
didn't think I
roasted
could if I
Reaper
wanted to.
from Hellfire.
It was surely stuck
On
like
there nice
everything
and
else.
thick.
What if it
Oh,
wasn't?
come on.
What if I could push it aside, open the window?
This is for you guys.
Would I be letting him in or letting myself out? Letting myself free? I thought about the clock, the slow movement from one moment in this forever to the next. I'd only be gone a minute. To me, it would feel like hours, days maybe a lifetime. Where would he take me? Would I ever come back home? Would he take me away to live forever in that minute? It's an odd feeling when someone has power over you. It can feel comforting, knowing that nothing else matters.
You know,
You
despite the
have to be
heat, that
yourself.
really is a tasty one.
Decisions aren't yours to make. I see him in my dreams now. That is, when I'm actually able to sleep. He glides across the walls and beckons for me to follow. He wants to take me someplace dark. Somewhere that the sunlight has never touched. And just like my trembling hand on the window latch, it becomes harder and harder to fight it. I'm frozen in the pulsing feelings of comfort and terror. My stomach feels sick, like I might vomit. I see her hair, my mother's, sliding back and forth across the wooden floor just outside of the closet, peeking out of the darkness. I can't make out the top of her head, weaving, making figure eights, just her long auburn hair cascading and swiping across the floorboards. I wasn't old enough when she died to really appreciate how beautiful it was. The door handle turns like someone is opening it, but it never stops. It just keeps spinning and spinning and never clicks.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
I don't know what it means.
We are in the final countdown, though.
If
We
these
got
dreams are mine or a product of the creature that
Los
eyes me from the
Calientes
window, licking the glass
is up
and
next.
looking through my flesh at my bare bones. What I do know is that they hurt. When I wake up, I hold my hand to my chest, to my thumping heart, like
some
a little girl
all-natural
poking her
zombie
tongue at the hole
apocalypse.
of a missing tooth. I can't control my emotions anymore.
and some last
I
stab.
don't feel like there's really much of a
Final
part of
three
me
up
that's
next.
myself anymore. I find myself thinking more and more about
I think I
just
might have
putting
smeared
into
some
it.
sauce like right under my
I
nose.
think I'm ready to find the little ball
'Cause that's
inside
feeling a
of
little
me
funny.
that wants to keep fighting and squeeze it until it pops.
Yeah, that wasn't a good choice.
There's one last entry. It's not dated, but we can assume it was written on June 17th, the day before Alice was reported missing. The condition of these pages was unfortunately just as bad as the previous ones, and were just as challenging to transcribe. I'm of course relying once again.
If there isn't
on
a
the
sound
Word
effect in the
document
next minute and a
transcription in
half, I
order
have
read
to
the entry
eat another
without
wing.
stopping to guess at the words. It's fairly short, so I should be able to get through this fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It reads as follows. Everything is a loop. Spirals that meet back at both ends, just to make you feel like things are linear, but they aren't. Nothing is. It's all just moving around in circles. Like feeling so cold you feel warm again. So much
I
pain.
kind
you've
of hope
lost
there
your
are
beauty.
sound effects soon because
So small that you see the bigger picture. See your place in all of it. You can't change your place.
that would mean I'd
Take
still
a
have
hard
2
left,
left.
and then a right,
And I
moving
kind of don't
down
want
the
to eat 2
spiral,
back to back.
just to make it to the same place you are always going to be, where you're supposed to be. I feel it. So cold I feel warm. So comfortable in all the hurt. They're all around me now. Burn all of this and forget about me. Don't come looking for me. I won't be in a place you could ever find. I may be making assumptions, which I guess I've already done.
Do
quite
I
a
look
bit
like
in
a
this
guy
episode
who's
so
got
far.
anything to prove?
But if we're to believe Alice's story,
25
I'm tempted
minutes.
to say that it was a type of goodbye.
All right. This one's not too bad, right?
Whatever part of Alice
Los
wasn't making
Calientes
the
Rojo.
creature's control was letting go. The police, however, would take this as a suicide note. I have to admit,
Oh.
it's fairly grim and, for lack of a better word, fatalistic. But I don't know that I agree. In fact, I most certainly don't, and neither did her father. There was a manhunt. How thorough I can't say, as it's not corroborated by anything more than this single newspaper clipping, which, curiously, also seems to slant towards the opinion of the officer they'd interviewed for the piece. There's part of the last entry that stands out to me. I'm not sure how many of you caught it. They're all around me now.
We're up to
This seems to imply that whoever
49,000.
was outside Alice's window, there may be more of them. As promised, before I conclude this week's episode, I'd like to share the contents of the envelope that was
And then it's a
included in
real
the
steep
folder.
climb from here.
I'll start first with the letter. Brian, I'm writing this to you because I can't always be there to tell you this. At least not when you really need
This is
it.
one that it doesn't
My hope
hit you
is that
right
I
off
can
the
come
bat.
back to this letter and come back to these words when they matter most. When we last spoke, I asked you how you coped with losing your wife. At the time, I kicked myself for salting old wounds right after you'd lost your daughter. But what you told me stuck with me. And I think
I don't
was
think
meant
there's
to
gonna be
hear
another
those
sound
words
effect, is
so I
there?
could remind you of them.
From what I remember of the story.
You told me that
I've
she
read
had
this
wanted
story,
you to
like,
keep moving.
Probably 5 or
I
6
found it
times.
interesting because you didn't say move on. You said
Oh,
keep moving.
damn it.
And that doesn't mean letting go.
I forgot to take
It doesn't mean
a...
forgetting.
I forgot to
It means
pregame
you keep trying. You keep moving forward. And you keep growing
Some
and reaching
antacid.
towards newer and better things. It
Pepto
struck
or
me how much
something.
impact there was in just that slight adjustment to the phrase.
Fingers crossed I don't
I don't
regret
really
it in like
forget
an
it.
hour.
There's no signature at the bottom or a stamp on the envelope. But there is one other thing. Tucked behind the letter is an obituary, but not for Alice Pierce. As far as the world is concerned, Alice is still missing.
All right, I'll do another one
No,
at 28
the
minutes.
obituary is for Brian Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Now
like
for
Jeremy's
recording
thing
this
now.
episode,
Just
I did a bit of extra
make my own
research on the
rules
death of Brian
because it
Pierce.
amuses me.
I think it's wise I don't share my method of obtaining this information, but what I found was quite interesting. Brian Pierce was found dead outside his home July 11th, 2007. His cause of death is listed as animal attack. And interestingly, his time of death is listed as sometime between 1 and 3 a.m.
28 minutes.
I've sort of glossed
Zombie
over
apocalypse.
Alice's brother, Gregory Pierce, as he was only briefly
This may
mentioned in
look
her
like I
journal
sauced it
entries,
lighter, but
but I
this is
found
a
bit
thick
on him as
sauce.
well. According to the records, he is also considered to be missing as of the same date that Brian's body was discovered. As I stated previously, I have a suspicion that there may be more to this story. I'll keep you updated if I find more. Thank you for listening to The Storage Papers. This week's episode was written by Cody Ditzenberger and performed by Jeremy Enfinger. Special thanks to Nathan Lunsford at 4-Story Productions for artwork and web design. Additional thanks to Cody Ditzenberger and Zapsplat for this week's music. Make sure to check out our new website at thestoragepapers.com, where you can catch up on all of our episodes and connect with the show's social media, including the new Facebook group to connect with the creators and discuss the show with other listeners.
Yeah, so that one's hot. Alright, so something to keep in mind. Like, first of all, talking doesn't feel good. Second of all, when they do this on the hot ones, they do this over an extended period of time, not just 30 minutes. They talk about how the wings are cold. These are still kind of warm. Whew.
Is it safe to get back on the road?
Hey, look,
How
it's
is
looping. I
travel
guess I
becoming
have more time.
seamless?
Ha.
Can business travel go back to
Right?
business as usual?
Right, guys?
These are the complex questions we'll dive into on Tarmac Warriors, a
Hang on.
three-part
Right?
podcast from SAP Concur Solutions. I'm Heather Greenwood Davis. Join us for a chat with three extraordinary business travelers, a big wave surfer, a tropical fruit expert, and a climate scientist, and see what we can learn about where business travel is going. Subscribe to Tarmac Warriors wherever you listen to podcasts.
I guess it didn't loop. All right. I thought I would have more time. I feel like I'm saying goodbye to everyone. I thought I would have more time. Just a few more minutes. That's my revenge. Sniffling into the mic. It's whew. Suckers. Of course, the downside is I can hear myself in my headphones, so I have to listen to my own sniffling too. All right, son of a bitch. Oh dear God. Oh, that was gross. So that was one of my finer moments in my life. There we go. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Son of a bitch. All right. Maybe if I hyperventilate, it won't hurt. I think I've reached a level of euphoria. There's no way of breathing that helps. Art is just pain leaving the body or something, right? At what cost, indeed. Hashtag deep. My hands are tingling. Like, this hand feels like it's asleep. Oh, and there goes my face. Am I, like, on my cheeks, it's tingling. Yep. This honestly feels incredible. That was the most, so I went extra. Like, they do the last dab on the hot ones. Yeah, they do that. I kind of like pre-last dabbed it. that was the most heavily sauced last dab I have ever consumed. And it is all sorts of tingles going on here. Notice the milk is unconsumed. I did not partake. I regret everything, all my life choices that have led to this moment. But it was 2:45, and I'm almost certain some hot sauce went up my nose a little bit, just on the edge. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down. We'll switch over to the other thing, the Patreon live stream for our beautiful patrons. You can watch me continue suffering. Yeah. So long, and thanks for all the fish.